A study done by Baldonado in 2019 reveals that there is a correlational link between an increased rate of female legislative members and progressive legislation, regardless of their structural differences. The highest sign of rising progressive legislation amongst the criteria studied is a growth in the number of women in parliamentary posts. It is reasonable to conclude that gender influences how an individual develops their political beliefs. It can also impact the legislation that is promoted and passed. Investigating the implications of gender in politics can create a beneficial outcome for the future of humanity and eventually lead the establishment of multi-perspective global political order.
Are poverty and race related? In a way, yes, but not how you think it to be. It mostly has to do with the community's geographical location and climate. Although cultural and societal factors may heavily come in play as well, as discrimination affects the economy and productivity of a country. On the discrimination, it can be argued that misogyny is a greater issue in most countries than racism, being a barrier that affects women's ability to gain access to quality education and good job opportunities.
Although Filipino women are often considered as one of the highest skilled in comparison to other countries in the professional, academic, legislative, and professional fields, as there are well-known women in the Philippines that have contributed to the country in a superb manner, we cannot ignore the fact that majority of Filipino women still continue to face discrimination and economic disadvantages. To further expound, Filipino women continue to experience domestic and sexual violence, lower pay, lack of access to education, inadequate healthcare, and such up to this day. This goes to show the current situation of women in the Philippines and how discrimination is still highly evident, therefore, being a highly alarming issue that is yet to be addressed in this country.
Unfortunately, in the Philippines, women continue to face several obstacles, such as gender division of labor, violence, and human trafficking, despite the country's legislation on women's rights and welfare and existing 15 laws advocating for women's rights, such as the Magna Carta of Women, the Anti-Violence Act Against Women and Children Act, and the Anti-Sexual Harassment Act, as per Dr. Connie Dacuicuy. In the Philippine government, gender inequality, especially towards women, is still prevalent. In Congress, women are infrequently appointed in the fields of banking, economy, and commerce, and infrastructure, as they are still confined to the traditionally feminine domains. Women are in congressional committees, usually are leaders only in cultural groups, women, and gender equality, which leads to women not being able to bring up issues that they actually care about in other fields. Despite the introduction of the Anti-Violence Against Women and Children Act, David showed that the country has only seen a minor decrease in violent instances in recent years. In addition, the country has one of the highest occurrences and fastest increasing rates of human trafficking in the world, which is very alarming. The Anti-Sexual Harassment Act also appears to be ineffective, as harassment against women still occurs, particularly in the business sector. Laws are much more focused on punitive measures rather than preventive measures. One example is that there are existing laws that penalize victims of prostitution and human trafficking. David concluded that these difficulties are interrelated, arising from men's sexist ideas, thus preventing the effective enforcement of laws.